Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 39th episode of the Sam Hossack Media Podcast. Before we get to our guest, this episode will obviously be in honor of the 16 Humboldt Broncos who lost their lives on April 6, 2018. Obviously, everyone in the hockey world knows that's a tragic day. So, for the 16 lives that were lost and the 13 lives that were survivors and the families of everyone involved, this episode is dedicated to you. But now, fans, without any hesitation, this interview is honestly probably one I will be nervous about the whole way through. But please welcome a very special guest. He is a former assistant captain of the Humboldt Broncos, author of the newly released book Crossroads. He has a charity for type 1 diabetes and is a student at York University. It is my absolute honor to welcome to the Sam Hossack Media Podcast, Caleb Dahlgren.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate that introduction. Thanks for having me on here. It's an absolute honor, and I'm looking forward to talking to you.
For sure. And now you're back home in Saskatoon, as we were talking a bit about yesterday on DMs. What are you kind of up to right now? Obviously, it's been a year in the pandemic. So what are you doing to keep busy?
Yeah, right now I've been pretty busy, not gonna lie. I've been working out, golfing, and enjoying some family time. Can't really complain with any of it so far. It's been awesome just to enjoy some time with family. And now that I'm done school, I actually can do more things with them, have suppers, and just keep it low key, but still have fun. And golfing's been really fun, getting to see my friends and still staying healthy. I know lockdown in Ontario is kind of tough, but golf just opened up, so that's exciting. But for me, I've been golfing for a little while here and can't complain at all.
Absolutely. Now we'll start with your early life here. What was your first memory of getting in a pair of skates?
Ooh, I'd say my first memory was probably just like a little kid. I want to say my first time back on the ice. I remember it. I remember stepping on and hearing a little crunch beneath my feet, and trying to take my steps, and I'm just sliding side to side and not really doing much, pushing a stool. And I think I loved about hockey was a cold like arena and like seeing your breath, but also even like the going speed through your hair. Like my dad would lift me up and carry me around. It was like the wind going through my hair. I love the sound of the skates too. That was like my first really memory of hockey. It was my first time on ice.
Now, you were born in Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan, and then moved to Saskatoon. For the
Yep.
American listeners that we have, I mean, that's a tongue twister to say all three of those, but have fun with those. But just talk about being from Saskatchewan and kind of what it means.
For me, it meant everything. I was born, like you said, in Moose Jaw, and the American viewers are probably like, "What is he talking about?" But it's a city of about 30,000 people, and they have a CHL team called the Moose Jaw Warriors. And that was where my hockey passion really grew, was in Moose Jaw. I would go to Warrior games with my families. We always sit in the same spot and just watch the Warriors play. And I really fell in love. I loved the speed. I loved how fast it was. Love how rowdy the fans would get. I loved everything the game brought and then some. So I think my passion really thrived there, and moved to Saskatoon when I was 6 and met so many great friends who are still best friends today. And it's through the hockey world that I met these people, and I couldn't be more grateful for that. And obviously you have memories of like playing, but I think the biggest memory for me is just the bonds I created and all the memories shared at and away from the rink too.
Now, being from Saskatchewan, obviously another big name in the hockey world is Patty Marleau. So just talk about growing up and seeing the amazing career he's had so far.
Oh, it's been incredible. And like I think was it Gordie Howe who had the record before?
Yeah.
Both of them are Sasky guys. So I think it just goes to show we're made of steel. No, I'm kidding. But it's so cool just to see how hockey is literally the bloodline within Saskatchewan. Every small rink has every small town has a hockey rink. And it just goes to show that hockey is what the communities thrive around. And it's their community center. It's where they play games. In the off season, they'll have like broom ball inside or rollerblading or things like that. So they really try to keep it within the community. And so that's why you see so many great players come out of Saskatchewan for the hockey world. It's because we literally eat, live, and breathe hockey. And then in the winter, if the rinks are full, we just go on outdoor rink and skate. So I think it's just in our DNA in a sense. And that's why I love it so much. And I think that's why there's so many great Canadian prairie hockey players in the NHL today.
For sure. And obviously, out here in Ontario, junior hockey is a big thing. Obviously, we've got the OHL, but we have other leagues. And I mean, out in Saskatchewan, there's obviously that too. You mentioned the Moose Jaw Warriors, and then obviously the Saskatoon Blades. So just talk about growing up and being able to go to Western Hockey League games, and how cool was that as a kid?
Yeah, it's great. You look up to those players as like role models or people you want to be. And I remember like watching Devin Setaguchi or Braden Holtby with the Blades, Brian Sellerby with the Moose Jaw Warriors. Some of these guys are absolutely great players in the NHL, even like Brooks Lake as well. I remember watching these guys and like looking up to them, and then now to see their careers that they've had. Even Mike Green was another one with the Blades who was an amazing D-man in the NHL, amazing there when he was with the Blades. So you get to watch those guys bloom, and I think that's the cool part about the CHL in general is you get to see some of the elite from the young ranks kind of grow throughout the ages and grow and get better. And then you see the careers they have in the NHL, and it's amazing. So I think as any hockey player loves growing up, that was one of the highlights of my nights would be going to the Blaze games or Warrior games and just getting to see someone that I wanted to idolize my game after.
For sure. And now you were on Spit and Chicklets a couple of weeks ago, and you talked about traveling overseas. So going to Germany, Czech Republic, Slovakia, Italy, and
Oh,
Hungary. So just
holy.
talk about those experiences.
Yeah, it was unbelievable going to Europe. For me, there were incredible experiences and life changing, to be honest. When I went, I was 11 and 12, and both years it really solidified what I wanted to do in my hockey career. And I wanted to play pro in Europe. That was my end all be all. That's what I wanted to do. And at the end of the day, when I looked back on it, I thought the NHL was where I wanted to go, but I wanted to go to Europe. And it's a little bit different than most children out there. Most of them, it's like straight NHL. But for me, I knew there was more to life than just the sport. And I wanted to really embrace it all that had to offer. So going to Europe was so cool. I went around to Germany, Italy, um, Austria, Switzerland. Like, I went all over, even Hungary. Like, it was such a beautiful trip. Czech Republic and Slovakia. Yeah, I couldn't say enough good things about that trip, and it was a really cool experience just to see hockey from a different standpoint. And also the Olympic size ice was pretty cool too, to play on that and kind of get my first kind of taste of Olympic size ice.
Now, obviously, you had a great career in the SJHL. So, kind of take us through what the commitment process to play in that league is. Obviously, the WHL, you've got your draft, same with the O and Q, but kind of what's the process to play a junior out there?
Yeah, for me, when I was like just going through the ranks, it was a different situation than it is now. Now they have a draft as well. But for me, it was you get listed and you have to choose where you go. So say on your birthday, you have to be, I want to say it was 15. It was, yeah, when you're 15, you have opportunity to get listed by any team in Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League, and you get to choose where you go. And so like I got listed by Kindersley and Notre Dame. And some of my friends got listed by like 6 teams or even 8, but I only got listed by 2. And I decided I talked to both the teams. And for me, the big deciding factor was where could I see myself getting a scholarship and improving the most. And for me, it was Notre Dame. And so I ended up signing my rights. So that's what you do is like you sign rights. So you're within their roster, their protected list. And then once you're in the protected list, no other team in Saskatchewan can get you. So I signed my rights to Notre Dame when I was 15 and never looked back after that. So I played another year of, it would have been midget citywide, it's called, where it's like the elite level in city, but it was one step below AAA, so midget AA. And then my next year, when I was 16, I played AAA. 17, I had an opportunity to play junior A for the Notre Dame Hounds as an underage, but I turned that away. I wanted another year to develop. And then my 18-year-old year went to Notre Dame, 19-year-old year Notre Dame, and then 20-year-old year in Humboldt for junior A. So it was pretty cool to be able to play with the team that listed me when I was 15 and give back and be a part of that organization later on in my career.
Absolutely. Now we'll kind of go back a little bit here. First SJHL game. Obviously, you'd been with Battlefords in AAA there all season long. So 44 games up there, and then one game with Notre Dame. So just take us through your first SJHL game.
It would have been in Kindersley. Kind of funny how full circle. But I was in Kindersley there, and I ended up got called up. I like they wanted me there for the season anyways, so they said, "All right, try to get you in a game or two." But they didn't really have many injuries that year, so they ended up calling me up one game, and I want to say they had one injury or whatever in the lineup, so they called me up, and I went and played, and it was such a cool experience. But when I first got out there, you think that you're gonna like kind of go in, you're gonna slide in the spot, it's gonna be okay. But when I went in there, it was like against men. So when I was in the corners battling, it wasn't the same as how it was in AAA when I'd like easily lift a guy's stick, get the puck, and make a play. It was like I'd have to like really battle and dig and get the puck finally. And I get absolutely cranked as I was making the play. So it was just little things like that. It was a big difference, and even the speed as well. And also the face masks. Like I'm so used to everybody wearing the cages, and so now everyone's wearing a visor, and like you have to keep your stick down on the ice. There's like a little more things that come with it that you really don't think about until you're actually in the situation. But I remember I was going up against a 20-year-old who was committed to Division One, and it was on the draw. He looked at me. He's like, "Hey, you want to go, pretty boy?" And I was like, "What?" He's like, "Oh, I'm just joking with you." I was like, "Oh my goodness, this 20-year-old just asked me to go," and he was just joking, thankfully. But like that was my first experience. Was just, and I think it's pretty funny looking back at it now as some little 17-year-old scared against a 20-year-old. But just some of that little stuff's fun. But it was a great first game. Was able to just draw in the lineup. Didn't get any points or anything, but just had lots of opportunities and got my feet wet, which was great for playoffs when I got called back up later on that year for the finals.
For sure, and obviously, playoffs in any league from juniors all the way up to the pros, it's a different atmosphere and different level completely. So just take us through being able to play in the playoffs.
So yeah, I was fortunate enough to, well, not fortunate enough. Our team lost in the finals of the AAA league back-to-back years, which is tough balance, but we lost back-to-back years in the finals. And probably like a day after that, the coach for Notre Dame called me and said, "Hey, you want to come play for us for playoffs? We'd be more than happy to bring you up. I'll probably get you in a couple of games if you want, but for sure practices and working out with the team and just skating with the guys." I said, "Sure." So I ended up going straight home, packed my stuff, and went to Notre Dame. And when I was there, I would have been maybe two practices in, maybe three. I got put into a lineup for a game and was not expecting it whatsoever. But I got into the game, did really well, did the role that I was asked to do, and was able to play as a steady player in the finals of the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League, which was, as a 17-year-old, you thought you might go back. I mean, when you're 18 or 19, maybe even 20, but I never did. Never ended up back in the finals of the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League. So to actually have the opportunity to play there and get my feet wet and get the foot into the door was really great. And there's also a huge spotlight on us too. So that helped further my career as well as a hockey player, just getting some eyes on me. And yeah, but it was great just to, I think, get experience. And like you said, the skill level from where it was in the middle of the season to playoff season was not the same at all. So everybody is like ramped up and it was a finals. So you had lots of guys that were going on energy, but they also all knew the systems to a T. There was no mistakes being made. And if you made a mistake, it was in the back of your net. So it was pretty cutthroat. And that's what I liked about the game was that you had to be on 24/7.
For sure. Now, just take us through the feeling of walking into a locker room and seeing your name on the jersey or up in the stall. How special is that?
It was really special. I wasn't expecting it whatsoever, to be honest. I wasn't expecting to even play in playoffs or even play as an underage. When they did ask me to stay as underage, I was worried I wasn't going to play much. I was worried to just sit in the stands and just use that year kind of as a sit in the stands year instead of as a development year. And they assured me that wouldn't happen, but I wasn't 100% sure. And I thought I'd develop more anyways through AAA route. So to actually be called back up and to be put in the lineup and put in situations where I wasn't expecting to be in was really great for my experience and great for my improvement as a player too. I learned a lot in that time, especially from the older guys, the 20-year-olds who took me under their wing and said, "Hey, this is the ropes, this is what you got to do," and kind of showed me how everything works. It was a really special time.
Now, going back to your childhood here, at the age of 4, you were diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. obviously you're not going to know what that kind of is at that age. So at what age did you kind of really start to understand what was going on with that?
Probably 3 months after, kind of about my fifth birthday, when I got diagnosed. I At first it was super super tough. I challenged my parents, say they don't love me. It was like really really difficult times, and once I kind of grasped that I needed needles to survive, my mindset shifted, and that was when I kind of understood what diabetes was that I needed needles to survive. Super basic, super easy comprehension that that's what it is, but I've sunk in about 3 months. And growing up, it was difficult because not many people really knew about it. Like they knew of it or heard of it, but they didn't know really what it came with or what you could and couldn't do and what kind of life you could live. And you could truly live a normal life. But you'd always have people who'd question what you're doing or say you couldn't do this or you couldn't do that, or coaches who would look at you differently. So for me, it was something that I wanted to raise awareness with later on in life. But at the young age, it was definitely took me some time to really grasp what it was. But I looked at the positives in that I can watch what I put in my body. I'm able to grow and learn and be more independent than most children at that age, and had to mature a lot faster.
Absolutely, and obviously, there's guys in the NHL like Max Domi who kind of had the same thing. And from what I understand, you've kind of had a friendship grow with him over the last few years. So just kind of talk about that.
Yeah, so Max Domi and I became friends. It would have been in 2016. Yeah, 2016. And met him in Arizona. I went to Arizona Coyotes game, and Maddie Shen, who is Luke and Braden Shen's sister, was able to hook me up with Max Domi because Luke was in Arizona and was buddies with Max. And so she hooked us up, which was awesome. We connected there and chatted a bit. And then I ended up talking to Max again after the crash. We were both with JDRF, so we had that connection anyways. So he reached out through JDRF with me, and we continue to chat today. And we actually just talked not too long ago. It's been like a week ago, I guess. And yeah, everything's going well. We're buddies, and I'm lucky to have a person in my life who I can relate with lots of things and who can relate to me. He's asked me some stuff about diabetes. I've asked him some stuff about diabetes, and we've had normal conversations too, where there's a lot more to us than just being diabetics, but we do have that in common for sure.
Now, heading into your first year with Humboldt, I understand you had a call with Darcy Hogan, head coach there, about a dream program you kind of wanted to start. So, kind of elaborate on that.
Yeah, so I had this dream program when I was in Notre Dame. Even before, when I was 16, I thought of this program, and I wanted to launch it when I was 16. My parents were like, no, you gotta wait until you're done high school. Like those marks really matter for university. And I was like, okay, all right, whatever. I'll wait. So I waited, and then I was in Notre Dame, and I joined Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation, which is a program that creates awareness for type 1 diabetes. And as I was doing it, I was like, okay, this is great. Like, I like this. This is up my alley. I'll keep continuing this, but I still don't feel really fulfilled. I had this dream program. I really wanted to do it, but I didn't feel whole inside of me. And in my 19-year-old season, I still wanted to do it. And I was going to my 20-year-old year. I was like, okay, well, this is my last chance really to use my platform as hockey and to make an impact on people's lives. So I ended up going with my coach and asking for a trade to a bigger center because Wilcox has 400 people. And it was really difficult because I loved my time in Wilcox. Absolutely loved it, enjoyed it, and I have literally nothing bad to say at all. It was a great experience. And so for me, there's more to life than sport. And I wanted that to be one of the big things. So I ended up going to Humboldt, and Coach Hogan and I got hopping on a call, and he said, "Oh, I hear you want to start this program. What is this?" And I talked to him and explained it all to him, and he said, "Yep, we're in." So what it was a program for type 1 diabetic children called Dahlgren's Diabetes. And what they would do is they come to the Bronco game, get a pregame meal at Johnny's Bistro, come with their game to their family, get to wear the diabetes jersey, participate in a ceremonial face-off, and watch a game from the stands. And then after the game, I'd meet with them, give them some Broncos and diabetes gear, and would also, I guess, then talk to them about my diabetic experience. And then afterwards, I go to their school or team or whatever and do a presentation just to create some awareness on type 1 diabetes. And lastly, they'd be in a group chat. So they had that kind of team and family atmosphere where they could talk to other diabetics or families who are going through the same struggles.
That's awesome. Now, were there a lot of guys obviously on Humboldt that were really supportive of it and kind of helping you along the way with things?
There was for sure. Even Logan Schatz, our captain, with the ceremonial face-off, it's normally the captain of the team that takes the draw. I was fortunate enough though to take the draws. He was like, "Hey, this is your program. You take the draws. I don't want this." So I was wearing the A that year, so it didn't look as out of place. But it was still nice to be able to take the draw against the other captains of the team and make that die beauty feel special as a crowd went nuts for them dropping the puck.
Absolutely. Now, obviously, you guys had a phenomenal regular season that year in Humboldt, 33 wins. Kind of just break down the regular season, how you kind of thought it went.
I thought it went extremely well as well. Um, Even going back to the last question, I gave my teammates all diabetes wristbands or whatever, and nearly all of them wore them for the whole season. So that was just goes to show how much support I had from them as well. But on to your next one. I think with our team, one of the things that made us so successful was how close we were, and just like how much of a bond that we had within our group, and how much we enjoyed spending time with each other. I think that was one of the big pieces for us that had the success. We were filled with good people and great players. So when you have both of those combinations, it's pretty special. And we did have a good season. There was lots of up and downs, though. We had tons of injuries, tons. And so we brought on a 20-year-old at the trade deadline, Nick Shemansky, who was an elite player in Flin Flon and probably one of the better players in the SJHL. So we brought him on, and then we had 9 tornadoes. And he only can dress 8. So that was like a really big tough time for the other 20-year-old who wasn't playing, because you'd have normally there's lots of injuries, so there's really no one that was a healthy scratch. But you'd have one who would be sitting out every game, even when playoffs came around, and if we were all healthy, one would be sitting out. So at one point, I was a healthy scratch. It was the first time I ever got scratched and I was healthy ever in my career. Was in my 20-year-old season. So it just built more character and built more drive. But it was part of the process, and it was something that hopefully helped our team, and it ended up helping us, I think, because our 20-year-olds performed probably the best we ever would have been able to if we didn't have that extra person who was sitting out forcing you to play your best. Maybe it wouldn't have been the same results.
Now, obviously, heading into playoffs, first round, you go in as, I believe, the underdog against Melford and end up taking them down in 5 games. So just talk about that series and kind of the jazz that was in the locker room after pulling off that upset.
So we knew within our program that we were like capable of doing amazing things once playoffs came around. We had so much depth in all places. Like we had great goaltending, we had great defense, really good forwards. So we knew that we were capable of doing incredible stuff when playoffs came around. And when we talked about it, we were looking at Melfort, and like you said, they were definitely the team to win it all. The record against Nipawin that year was, I think, like 8-1 or something, which is incredible when Nipawin had like maybe 9 losses all year. Like it was just crazy. So they had the Nipawin's number, maybe 6-1. I'm not too sure. Don't fact check me on that one. I have no clue. All I know is that the record was a lot higher than Nipawin's was, and they had a lot more wins than Nipawin. So they were for sure the ones who were supposed to take it all. And we went into it just playing one game at a time. And we knew our systems. We knew what we had to do. We all bought into our system. We all bought into each other and support each other through that time. And ended up coming out 4-1 in that series. And it was kind of a good refresher and reminder that we are capable of amazing things as a group, and that we do have what it takes in the locker room to go far. So then when we played against Nipawin in the second round, we were doing really well against them, but we were down 3-1 in the series. However, we lost 2 games that we had the lead that went to overtime. So it literally could have been 3-1 for us as well had we just closed out those games, but we didn't. So we were down 3-1 in that series, and then that was when the crash happened.
Yeah, so obviously April 6th, for anyone that's listening, in 2018, everyone in the hockey community remembers that day. It was a tragic day for everyone involved, obviously, and everyone in the hockey community. If you're okay with talking about it, I'd love to kind of get into it a little bit from what you kind of remember and what you really do remember from it, if much.
Yeah, so it was just a normal day, just a straight normal day. And that's the thing that some people can't really comprehend, was that there was nothing different. It was just a completely normal day. We had a game day. we had to go win a game of our series or else we would have been done. So it was do or die. The guys were ready to go. We had pregame skate, went to Johnny's Bistro, went back home, got a little pregame nap in, and went to pick up some of our pregame meals, and then head to the rink and went to the rink, packed our bags, loaded the bus, had a little meeting in the dressing room, and then hopped right on the bus. So the thing about it was that it was so normal that it was just another day. And on the bus, lots of guys were listening to music, joking around, watching TV or movies, playing cards. It was just a normal bus trip too. And for me personally, I had my little pregame meal, and normally around 30 minutes out, I like to get 30 to 45 minutes out, I like to get into my suit. So I tossed on my suit, sat back down in my seat, and I ended up putting my headphones a bit, playing some music. Then my roommate behind me tapped me on the shoulder and asked what song it was, and I told him what song. And then I put in my headphones again, and guys in front of me started talking, and so I was like, okay, I'll pause it again, listen in a bit, and it was just some joking around. So I was like, okay, I need to focus up. So what I normally do is I close my eyes and visualize what I'm going to do at the rink and what I'm going to do on the ice and all that before the game, and I'll play music. And so what I did was I ended up hitting play and closing my eyes and putting my head down, and then everything went black. And I woke up 4.5 days later in a hospital bed, confused, asking if we won our game. And that was it. So that was all I can remember. But apparently on the scene, I was helping others and walking around, my first responder said, but I don't remember that whatsoever. I don't remember anything in those 4.5 days.
Yeah, obviously it's kind of tough now. Just kind of take us through when you kind of wake up in the hospital. What was your kind of first reaction, and who kind of really told you what had happened? And was it even really believable at that point?
It wasn't believable. I literally thought we played a game. So I woke up, looked around, and it wasn't looking normal. I saw white. I was in a hospital room. And I didn't believe it. So I tried going back to sleep because I thought I was dreaming. And then sure enough, got told that the accident happened. Well, I first looked over and saw my parents, and I was like, am I dreaming? They're like, no. And I was like, okay. And I was like, how'd our game go? He said, what game? I was like, our game. He said, there was no game. And then I got told about the crash, told that Dana passed away. And then within 5 minutes later, I was on my way to physio, having to go to physiotherapy. So that was hard for me to wrap my whole head around how we have this crash. I don't even know my injuries, and I'm on my way to physiotherapy right now. So it was a lot to take in at that time, and it wasn't easy to process what had happened. I don't think anybody could process that. And then also another hard part about it was the fact that I didn't really even know who was here and who wasn't. And I couldn't even go to the funerals to grieve with them either, like grieve about them in a healthy way or normal way. So what I did was I went through social medias, our old photos, old videos, and really just reflected on the amazing memories we created.
For sure. And now, obviously, it might be hard to talk about. And I mean, there isn't obviously a video of it actually happening, but did at any point you kind of watch the video from the news channels and kind of see the aftermath and be like, holy crap, I actually survived this?
Yeah, I did. I saw like the run through of how they demonstrated like the full like collision, like how it was actually done, and they remodeled it all. I watched all that, yeah. And it is pretty crazy just the way to look at it, 'cause I was in aisle seat and people beside me passed away, people behind me passed away. It just doesn't make sense. So um obviously that's something that you have to come to accept, is some things won't make sense in life. And those are one of the things that doesn't make sense, but you have to accept it.
Now, obviously, after a little while, you're kind of going onto your phone, and how special was it to see the outpour of support from everyone in Canada and all across the world, really, of Humboldt Strong?
Yeah, I didn't believe it when I first found out of the crash. And so I went and looked at Twitter, and all I saw was Humboldt Strong, prayers for Humboldt, and sticks out for Humboldt. And I couldn't believe it. I still couldn't believe it. And it didn't really hit me until days later in the hospital. Once I got out of the hospital, I went around Saskatoon, and all you see is like stickers on vehicles saying Humboldt Strong. Every restaurant sign said Humboldt Strong. There's green and gold ribbon on all the street lamp posts. It was wild, and I had no clue it was that big externally. And you're getting videos from like Anze Kopitar, Steven Stamkos, Patrice Bergeron, guys who I looked up to as hockey players and people. And you like have visitors coming in like the prime minister, um, Connor McDavid. So it was just crazy. It was really crazy just how much outpouring support there was. But that's something that truly helped me in the healing process. And I'm just so grateful for all the support and all those who have tried, either as a message or sending their well wishes or putting a stick out on their porch, just anything, or even just praying for us or thinking of us. I really do appreciate all the support.
Now, obviously, nothing out of this situation is really funny, but there was one funny story about a teleprompter for a speech. So take us through that.
Oh boy. So at the NHL Awards, there's actually a couple more funny stories. I chirped Johnny Gaudreau and told him that he was too short, and that if he had longer legs, that he'd be a better player than McDavid. But I don't know if that'll be the case or not. But anyways, at the NHL Awards, I was doing a speech for us on behalf of the Broncos, and I really didn't want to do the speech, to be honest. I'm sorry. We have little Murphy here barking, but I didn't want to do a speech, to be honest. Murphy, it's okay. Sorry about that. All right, we got a wild dog here who's going to be just thinks he's running the house. So I ended up doing a speech, and as I prepared in the morning, I couldn't see a teleprompter, so I put on Brain Camera's glasses, which were kind of like the same prescription as mine. And if it was actually really cool, I didn't know we both had that bad of eyesight, but it was kind of similar. And so I could see a teleprompter, and I had the speech pre-written and everything like that. And so then I went up, I put on my glasses, I had this like NHL awards ceremony, and it's like pretty big deal. I didn't want to make any mistakes, so I was like, okay, I'm going to use a teleprompter, I'll be fine. No need to worry. So as I get up there on the stage, I look up at the teleprompter, and you see if you watch the video back. You see me kind of look up, and everybody's standing for a standing ovation, clapping us to go on the stage, which is amazing, super, super kind of them. And they ended up still standing, and I was like, okay, I was gonna like say something like, sit down, you guys are more welcome. Like I said, thank you. And nobody like sat down. So I'm looking at the teleprompter, and I can't even see the teleprompter because I have Pekka Rinne, this tall goalie, in front of this teleprompter. And I'm literally like, my jaw, surprised it didn't drop. I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I literally don't know what I'm going to do. So I thankfully prepared the speech and like reread it probably a dozen times before I went on the stage, just so that I can nail it if I needed to. And thankfully I did pretty close to nailing exactly what I want to say. I did make a mistake, but other than that, it was pretty fluid, and it was a little bit slow paced. I had to really collect my thoughts and think what was the next in line. But it was something that was pretty funny looking back at having Pekka Rinne's head blocking the teleprompter for my speech.
Now, another story that kind of got told on Chicklets. I hear you're a huge Sidney Crosby fan growing up, so I hear he sent you a gift after everything that happened. So take us through the gift that he sent you.
Yeah, he sent me a signed picture, which was really nice of him, actually. But growing up, I was more of an Ovechkin fan when it was like those two, Ovechkin versus Crosby. I liked Ovi just because he would absolutely crank guys. He would score goals, and he had so much passion and fire for the game. I didn't like his defensive play that much per se, and that wasn't someone who I'd modeled my game after. But I do think Ovechkin and Crosby are both incredible players and incredible people and leaders as well. But anyways, Crosby sent me a little signed picture, and in the video I say I hate Sid, and yeah, I felt pretty bad looking back at it, especially when it gets into his hands too. It's one thing to say it, but then it's another to like actually land it in his hands. So that one made it even a little bit more worse. But yeah, after that, just the way that he's carried himself with all the families is truly incredible. And he's been an amazing person to all of us, and I can't thank him enough for his support.
Now, obviously, the next year, the home opener for the following season was broadcast on TSN. You and some of the other boys that were other survivors were there in attendance. So just take us through walking out onto the ice with those jerseys on again and seeing a packed building just screaming and cheering for you guys.
Yeah, it was really special. Not gonna lie, it was special. I was fortunate enough to be there in the first place because I was at York University at that time. So I was lucky to not have any tests or anything like that. I had tests it would have been like the next day after. It was like a first ever university test. We're like, yeah, we're gonna drop it really early, get you guys into the system here and get a little used to it. And so I had a test like the next day, so I had to leave right after that. I went to the thing and then I flew out the next morning, and I think it was that evening or that next morning that I had the test. So it was pretty fast trip. But other than that, I think for me, what really stood out was just the support of Humboldt and how amazing they were. And then also just to be in the same kind of vicinity with everybody again and connect again. That was really nice just to see everybody and go through that, I guess, experience together and heal together in that experience, because it was difficult. When I walked on the ice, it was probably one of the harder things. And in my book, I talk about it quite detailed about how hard it was for me to go back and step onto the ice and how it felt like I was playing against Nipawin Hawks with the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League playoffs. And it was like our game that we're coming back home after we won. It just really felt like a lot of emotion was boiled up inside me from that. And then going back on the ice, I felt numb as I was going out there. It didn't feel normal per se. And then as I went back after a week after with York University and had my first ever York Dahlgren's Diet Beauty in Humboldt, where it all started, it felt more normal. It felt like back home. But when I first stepped on that ice that time, it was definitely, yeah, it was hard. I wanted to wave to everybody, and I just had to focus on putting my one step forward of the other. So I couldn't really grasp all the emotion that I was feeling inside of me.
Now, as you mentioned there, the book Crossroads came out a few months ago now. So take us through kind of when you really thought about writing this book, and who kind of gave you the idea, or did it just come to your head one day?
It was actually it was actually through a lot of people's convincing that I ended up writing the book. I'm not gonna lie. I first did I was told I should write a book like right after the crash, but I never would have ever done that. And it was more, I think, just a joke. But my first actual like person who came up to me and said you should write a book was in 2019. Uh, in would have been sometime early 2019, and I did a presentation for a group. And after a person came up to me and said, you should write a book, it would really make an impact on this world. And I laughed it off like, no, I'm a student athlete. Like, there's no way at all I could write a book right now. I'm way too busy for that. He's like, no, like, seriously, you should think about it. You should write a book. And I was like, okay, no, but thanks, but no, kind of thing. So I kept on doing a couple more speaking engagements, and they were talking about my entire life. It wasn't just about the crash. It wasn't just about diabetes, because I had done stuff about diabetes, but I knew there was more to my life, and it was like trying to fight through adversity. And I had tons of adversity in my life. So I was like, oh, I can do that. Like, that's fine. I'll do a speech about that. And so I did a couple more of those throughout the summer. And the same theme was that people were like, you should be writing a book. Like, a book would truly help others. Like, your story really touched me. And it really hit me when one person came up and said, you literally changed my life. I was thinking of committing suicide, and you're helping me stay here. And that was like really when it hit me, just how much of an impact my story had. So I ended up getting DMs as well, and people were saying how much they liked my perspective on my posts, and that it'd be great if I actually wrote a book. And I still was really against it, to be honest. I was like, no, I don't need to write a book. Like, I'm fine. So I talked to my agent, Jeff Loans, who's been incredible. And he was like, well, I was asking, like, is it normal to get told that you should be writing a book? He's like, no, no one gets told they should be writing a book. He's like, but your story definitely has a lot of validity, and the way you carry yourself is true testament to how inspirational you could be and how your book could really help others through their tough times in life. And I thought about it. I was like, no, I'm good, thanks. I have too much going on. So then later on, he came back. My agent was like, look, there's some publishers interested. Are you sure you don't want to write a book? And I was like, not really, no. So, well, you know what, think about it and just talk to some people. He said, the best is to talk and hear what others have to think. He's like, that might help you out, and just see where your head's at afterwards. He's like, still don't want to do it? Great. But I'd hate to turn away some really amazing offers. So like, yeah, whatever kind of thing, like shake it off. Talked to a couple people, and one of them was Haley Wickenheiser. And she was one of the people who I looked up to, and after the crash got really close with. And she said that I should write a book and that it really could make a positive impact on this world. I thought about it. I was like, yeah, maybe, but not really ready. anyways, so I was still like debating. I talked to my family, my friends, teammates, and still didn't really know what to do. And I didn't know if I was mentally ready or emotionally ready to be that vulnerable. And I didn't know if others were ready for that either. So there's a lot weighing on it. And then even like time commitment, I knew it was a big time commitment. But I was in 5 courses. I was volunteering with 4 different things with our team. I was in 4 different external volunteering things. I had my own program. There's just so much on the go. So then I ended up sitting in class one day, and this was like kind of when I needed to decide if I want to write a book or not. And my professor said, if you want to change the world, it starts with you. And that was when it really hit me, because everything I've done in my life has been to leave a positive impact on this world, and that this book could leave a positive impact if I wanted it to. And so it would help others, and I was able to donate proceeds. And so I was able to really find reasons to write a book to help others. And so that's what I did. I'm donating portion proceeds to Stars Air Ambulance, who help save lives on April 6th and save lives every day. I'm also raising awareness on certain topics that need to be raised, like death, type 1 diabetes, mental and emotional health, physical health, recovery, family, hope, resilience, lots of different topics that I think need to be discussed in this world, and especially in these times that we're in. So it was a full circle. Finally signed with HarperCollins in 2020, and then wrote the book throughout 2020, and now it's published in 2021.
For sure. So now, obviously, we're here in May. Book comes out in March. What has the 2 months since the release of the book looked like for you? Obviously, it's probably a lot of speaking engagements on Zoom, so you're probably really familiar with this by now.
Yeah, I am familiar with this for sure. It was really kind of interesting and blessing in disguise to have a book released during COVID, just because I was a student athlete and I still had demands as a student, and I didn't have to travel everywhere. I didn't have to do a full book tour across Canada during school, because that would have been extremely difficult. So I really enjoyed how I could be in Halifax and in Vancouver from a minute apart instead of like an airplane ride away. So I think that was really cool and unique. I do miss the interactions with humans though. Like I love connecting with people and hearing their stories, and hearing some of the things that they've gone through in life and how they've persevered and where they are today. So I really enjoy that aspect, and I am able to do that through social media. So or even like this, for example, but I think on social media and the DMs, I'm able to respond to people who do open up, who say that this book has changed them, or this book has given them some insight, or has shown them through their own challenges that they can continue, or even able to relate to certain topics that I bring or connect to the book. So it's so nice to have that aspect. And that's the whole goal for me, is to connect with people and to leave that positive impact in their life. So I'm able to do that. And it's been a whirlwind, like you said, but it's been something super cool. And I'm grateful for everything about it.
Absolutely. And I mean, we've grilled you enough here, so we'll have some fun before we wrap things up. But obviously, the NHL, they came back in January, 116 plus straight nights with the extra exhibition games with Calgary and Vancouver. But who's your kind of go-to team, and how excited were you to see NHL hockey every night?
Oh, I was super, super excited for the return. It's always great to watch sports. I don't know about you, but I love watching sports, and I've been really into the playoffs right now, loving that, and it's been great to just watch every night. But for me, I'd have to go with Vegas. Vegas is my favorite team, Vegas and Capitals. Obviously, I wanted Vegas. For me, I want Vegas to win it all. So I don't know if it'll happen, but
Yeah, I mean, they've got a strong team, and obviously it was tough to see Washington go down after winning that first game for sure. But yeah, Vegas is definitely a powerhouse this year. I mean, they were just so close to winning the President's Trophy this year and just lost by like half a point or something, or whatever the NHL wants to come up with that explanation of two teams tied at 82 points. Go ahead. But
exactly. Yeah, I don't know, but Vegas definitely is my go-to team. I hope they take it here against Minnesota.
yeah, for sure. Obviously, that's going to be kind of a tough one. Minnesota with the big win last night, and they won the season series. So Vegas is kind of up against the ropes in a way. But I mean, they've obviously got it up by one game right now. So that's
Yeah.
kind of what matters in playoffs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's game by game, and so I'd love it to see Vegas host a cup, to be honest. Hoist it. Even Toronto, too. I know you're a Leafs fan, but I'd love to see the Leafs hoist a cup, too. It's been a long time. And I know you guys get that every single year, but it's actually, I think, one of the better teams that I've ever seen the Leafs have. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, the guys they brought in this year, you got Simmons and Thornton coming in. I mean, Thornton's getting near the end of his career, so obviously a year or two left there. But to have him win a cup and to bring in Foligno at the deadline, that was a huge thing. Even Riddick, I mean, he's a third string in the playoffs right now, but I mean, at the end of the day, he could change a series too. It's kind of who's hot and who's not in the playoffs, and you're kind of seeing that. Obviously, it's really unfortunate what happened to John Tavares. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it wasn't as bad, really, kind of as the, I guess, Muzzin thing last year. I mean, it's kind of a given that Tavares is out for the playoffs. And I mean, last year it was Muzzin going down late, but the Leafs ended up losing. So it's kind of, I guess, a bigger deal actually now with Tavares out of the lineup. But I mean, with Riley Nash coming in from Columbus this year with Foligno, that's definitely a huge thing that's kind of helped. I mean, obviously Sheldon Keefe, the coach there, has success in the AHL, and he has a couple of the guys up with him in the Leafs organization now. So hopefully he can bring those guys into the lineup the right way. But who really knows right now? I mean, big game 4 in a couple hours tonight against Montreal. So I mean, unless Carey Price stands on his head again, I think Toronto goes up 3-1. So
Yeah, I hope so as well. You never know with Price, though, because goalies can truly change a series. And that's what I've learned in playoffs is that you have to have great goaltending to win Stanley Cup.
now, obviously, next year the Olympics are going to happen again every 4 years, and it seems like the NHL guys are going to be there. So, if you had a couple names to put on the Canadian roster, who would they be?
Ooh, Easley, McDavid, McKinnon. I'd even go Crosby because he's a veteran and has been in the presence for so long. I think he should be there too. Um, I would even go with, oh boy, I'm trying to think D and goalies, but I think you got to put Makar on there because you need that offensive skill. And I'm trying to think starting goalie. Ooh, I don't know who I'd go with starting goalie. That's a tough one. That's a tough one, I think. Who would
Yeah,
you be starting goalie? Who would be yours?
Hellebuck, I think. I just Price hasn't been that like he still is consistent, but I just think over kind of the years he's kind of dipped off a little bit. And obviously Hellebuck won the Vezina last year and stood on his head against the Oilers in the series that just happened there. So I mean, when you shut down McDavid and Draisaitl for 2 points really in 2 games or in 4 games, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Hellbuck's an American though. Not too
Oh, is
sure.
he? I thought he
Yeah,
was.
he is.
Yeah. Oh, is he? Yeah.
Yeah, he's played for USA World Championship and World Jays. So he's a USA born guy. But yeah, no, he's 100% such a good goalie and lights out in the NHL for sure. For sure. So I think Hellbuck would be probably one of the top goalies in the whole tournament. I don't know who Canada's starting goalie would be. But I think like you gotta get Marchand on it, I think.
Yeah.
Like and Marner as well. I think Scheifele too. I love Scheifele as a player personally, and I think Huberdeau is another one. But I don't know. I yeah, it's tough. It's so hard to make a team Canada because you have so many great players who could literally fill any role that you want. So yeah, I think Canada will be a team to beat though. I think Canada will probably take it all.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, you could have 2 or 3 stacked Canadian teams at that
Literally.
Olympics. Like it's that in depth with all these guys. I mean, people are even throwing Zach Hyman on that Canadian roster, and you look at some of the names that have been put on rosters already, and you want to throw Hyman on there. I mean, as much as I want him on there as a Leaf fan, it's like there's so many guys that are superstars ahead of him that would be
Yeah.
like I think like guys like Marner and like Huberto and those guys would be on like a sixth line. Like that's how much depth Canada has going in these Olympics. Like,
Literally, even like Matthew Barzell, like he's a really good player, but where would he fit on Team Canada?
yeah, exactly. Like
Like
nowhere.
Claude Giroux, another one. There's just so many, so many. I think you put Chris Letang in D as well, though. I think you give Letang a spot.
Yeah, I think really hockey fans are kind of wanting to see. I think really like, I mean, it's obviously going to be the last Olympics between Ovechkin and Crosby. I mean, Ovechkin's 35 now, so 4 years down the road, or 5 years, I guess now he's going to be 40, and I don't really see him competing at an Olympics for Team Russia in 5 years. I mean, I think he'll still be in the NHL, but I don't see him at the Olympics at that age to risk anything.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. Depends how close he is to records. They might want him to break a couple records. But yeah, like you said, who knows what he'll be like or Crosby will be like in another 5 years.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, right now the World Championships are going on. I mean, I'm not even going to put my input into that. That Canada didn't even put anyone on that team this year. I mean, they're 0-3. They've lost to Latvia, the States, and Germany yesterday. So, I mean, good for the NHL guys that decided to go. I mean, Lafreniere didn't go. A couple other guys didn't go. So it's kind of tough to see. I mean, it's obviously a big tournament. But one thing I want to get your input on is the Women's World Championships were canceled in Halifax last month. Just talk about hearing that news and how devastating as a hockey player was it to kind of hear that.
I was extremely disappointed, not gonna lie. I even made a post on my story about it. And I really think that women's hockey should be treated equivalent to male hockey. And I was really looking forward to it. I have friends who are on the team. Emily Clark and I grew up playing hockey together and practice and work out every summer together. And I was so excited to see her succeed and get another shot at it and go hard. And to have that pulled away was something really hard for me and hard for her and all the women in the Women's Professional Hockey League and part of Team Canada national team. It was definitely devastating. And it's nice to see that they have the Professional Women's Hockey League, a little startup, Secret Tour, I think it's called. It just started the other day. So it's a Dream Tour, maybe. I don't know. I think it's the Secret Dream Season. Not too sure what the exact name of it is, but it's really nice to see women's hockey finally getting back out there and able to show what they're capable of because they're capable of amazing things. And even when we look back to the skills competition, we brought in the women. I loved that. Absolutely loved that. I thought it was incredible that the NHL did that, and they should do a lot more of it as well. And I think it's just kind of the start and the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot more that we can dive into with women's hockey, and I want them to get the spotlight they deserve as well.
Absolutely. I mean, you've got the National Women's Hockey League now. Obviously, they had a great year down in the bubble this year, and
Mhm.
Boston comes out on top there after kind of a little bit of a break. But I mean, they get to play, and you've got this Dream Tour now. And I mean, it looks like the Women's Worlds are going to happen in August out, I think, in Calgary or something they were saying. So, I mean, at least the women get to play. And I mean, the tournament gets canceled last year, and I get like you've got the Olympics next year. You haven't seen these women play in 2 years now, really, except for if they're in the NCAA or wherever they're playing. So, I mean, that's kind of completely different playing on that ice surface to an Olympic size ice surface. You got to kind of adapt to that. And I mean, there's not too many NCAA rinks, especially for women's and men's that are Olympic size. So they're not used to it and they got to get back into that. But it's great to see that they actually were able to figure it out. And I mean, the one thing that was kind of getting thrown around was if it was the men's tournament, it would have happened. And that's kind of devastating for everyone kind of involved.
100% is devastating for sure. And hopefully more awareness is out there now and that they are able to inspire the next generation too. It's nice to see Toronto 6 has a team now. It's actually at a Canlan Arena where we play. So their dressing room is right across the hall from ours. So really looking forward to seeing more of that when I go back to York for the games. But I want definitely some more awareness around women's hockey, even women's sport in general. And so hopefully they can be equivalent to the male one day.
For sure. And now, here before we wrap up, obviously you've spent the last couple of years at York. Just talk about kind of committing to that school and how great it was over the last couple of years.
The last 3 years have been incredible. I would never change my time ever again. York has been truly a blessing in disguise for me because I developed and grew and healed and learned so much about myself in my time in my 3 years there as a Lion and was able to be a part of a team when I needed it the most. And for me, that was something I'll never take for granted. I went there right after the crash, would have been 4 months after I moved to Toronto to be a part of York University start my student athlete life and take on that journey, and haven't looked back since. And I come out now with a commerce degree and go into chiropractic studies. So just so many great lessons and friends and memories that I'll have from that school, and all the support that I received to be here today. I wouldn't be the person I am without my experience at York. I wouldn't have achieved what I would have if it wasn't for York. So I'm beyond grateful for the whole experience, and especially to follow my coach's footsteps, Mark Cross, and not per se follow his footsteps, but follow his path as he went to be a Lion, uh, and kind of live that experience was truly awesome.
Absolutely. Well, on behalf of the listeners, I'd like to thank Caleb for coming on today. It was an absolute honor to have you on the program, and we'd like to wish you the best of luck with Crossroads. And thank you so, so much for taking some time out of your day. I know you're a very busy guy with this book and everything going on with school and everything. So thanks again, pal.
Thank you so much for this time, Sam, and it was great talking with you. I really appreciate it.